Joining me now is the 55th Speaker of the House, former California Congressman Kevin McCarthy. Speaker McCarthy, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Good to see you, Maria.
Well, let's talk about what is about to take place. I feel like it's deja vu all over again with a slim majority here in the House. You've been listening to our conversations about putting the tax cut plan later on in the year. Your reaction?
Well, that's all doable, but it is all doable if it depends how this year ends. Because right now it doesn't look like they're going to finish this year's funding and they're going to push that into next year's funding. So what that means is you're putting more burden on President Trump. You're not giving him the honeymoon. So that means government funding they never got done this year, and they got to get that done by next March. Well, if they're worried on that, that delays everything else. Not doing the border and the tax doesn't delay anything. It's that funding. The plan I had is you got the funding done, and you could actually do the debt ceiling now, too, to truly give President Trump a honeymoon. Remember, when you reconstitute a new Congress, you have to constitute committees. He has to confirm his cabinet. But if you're bogged down with doing funding, which was during Biden's time, that's taking away President Trump's opportunity to have a honeymoon and put his policies in place.
So do you expect this agenda to get done the way Stephen Miller just lined it out?
It very well can do. I expect that to get done. That's just the way President Trump works. But you're actually handicapping President Trump by not doing your job of the funding of this year and pushing it into next year. You're giving him more problems and instead of letting him look to the future and get things moving in a more rapid way.
Why is it so?
And you have a smaller majority going forward. Remember that. And remember why President Trump won. It was the economy. It was border. It was energy and the foreign policy. And let him do that job instead of worrying about funding that happened last year.
Why is it so tough to get the funding done? Why isn't the funding done and that they have to push it into the first quarter of next year?
Well, you'd have to ask the current leadership. I mean, I don't think it's difficult to do. I think they can get a deal, and I think it'd be very important to help President Trump have that honeymoon to make sure he could get his agenda through and get all that done. Do not burden him with the Biden-era problems and let him govern the way the American public wants him to.
And Kevin, what is your opinion or reaction to President Trump initially naming Matt Gaetz as the AG?
Well, no one thought that would pass. I blame Matt Gaetz for lying to the president about his ethics report. People know that that's why he made the motion against me. People know that's why he's not capable of even staying in Congress. He needed an excuse to resign because the ethics report would be done in a couple days, and that's unfortunate. But it's a better Congress today of where they're going forward.
Well, you just heard Stephen Miller say that this is going to be President Trump's biggest domestic policy win in 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, think about what President Trump can do on the first day, his executive orders, his rolling back on the regulations. You're already seeing it on a foreign policy basis, just watching his presence bring greater stability to the world and safer. But what you really want to know is, can the next 50 years be the American century? Because what you want to do here is whoever captures AI and quantum has the best ability. But no country can do that unless they get their energy policy right. And that's where President Trump is correct. And look at the bright minds that he's bringing in, having Elon and others to actually counsel him in the best ways to go. He knows how to do the job. This is a much different President Trump when he first came into office. He knows where the swamp is and how to clean that up, but more importantly, how to govern and the world leaders. Everybody's waiting him to get on stage. That's why I just think it's a mistake if Congress pushes the funding they should have already got done onto the president. Let him do his job. Let him put out his agenda that he's trying to do, because we know he'll work each and every day for it.
Well, this is a great point that you're making, and I'm glad you brought up AI and quantum, because these are two areas that China wants to lead on, and they're actively undermining America. You started the China Select Committee, putting these issues front and center in Congress. Tell me what should be done there, because just last week, China threatened that it's going to stop sending us the important critical materials that are needed for those very areas, AI and quantum. I know you're starting a think tank called Alpha, that you're also going to be taking these things on, but what do you want to say about Communist China and the way President Trump should deal with that?
Well, thank God that President Trump won again, because we can deal with China now. That's exactly why I created the Select Committee on China. Because what's the problem here is, if you watch, China controls 90% of our critical minerals, 95% of the processing of critical minerals, 50% of our medical supply. We are too dependent on China. And you have done a lot of great work on this, showing the American public about this. But why I've created the Alpha Institute is I take the experience from AI, the issues I worked on, from China, from defense. We got to reform our Defense Department. Energy. We'll never capture AI unless we get energy correct. And we need to expand our grid. That means all the above. And then when you look at our healthcare and you look at space, these are all the issues about the future. And that's why I take the experience that I had in the private sector, as well as in the public sector, marriage those together to bring out the policies to help govern here, giving the ideas to those elected. If they're bogged down looking at not tomorrow but yesterday's funding, they're really not looking at the next 100 years. So how can we enhance that? And you watch the Select Committee on China being so successful, even bipartisan in our ideas, putting America in the right track, and now having a Trump administration putting those policies together can really put us in a place where the next century is the American century.
Great point. It's great to see you this morning. Thank you so much. Former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Thank you, Kevin.